Hi there, and welcome to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where father and son sit down and talk about fantasy books. I'm the son in that equation, Zach.
And I'm the father, Jim. Thanks for being with us again today. We're excited to talk a little bit more Wheel of Time, The Shadow Rising.
Mm-hmm.
More about that in just a little bit. Zach, my son, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. I'm surprisingly a little tired. Not entirely sure
Really?
why. I just was like, feels like it would be a nice time for a nap. Instead of a nap, I'm here, so if I yawn a bit, that's on me. How are you doing, Dad?
Well, we appreciate your sacrifice that you're with us instead of sleeping. Um, I'm doing well. It's a beautiful Saturday, sunny outside, so I'm going to stay inside and sit in front of a camera now. But I did get a nice walk in over 4 miles this morning because it was just a
Nice.
pleasant day. Yeah, yeah. And I've had a lot of weekends with work related stuff,
Mhm.
not this weekend. So, ah, just kind of nice to relax.
I can't say I'm as fortunate as you are in that specific context. However, I'm glad that you get this weekend off.
Yeah, yeah. Some people who have been watching our content will know, last weekend I was all the way over in Florida for work because I literally
Hmm.
did a episode from a hotel room. It's
Oops.
nice not to be traveling this time. Zach, you got something to drink since you can't sleep?
I do. I am starting it a little bit easy. I have plans later on celebrating a friend's birthday and doing various things. Um, so while I am drinking, it is fairly low on the alcohol content. I did go with something that I'm going to affectionately call a spiced tea, um, because it's a little
Okay.
bit of spiced rum in some iced tea.
Well, there you go. Spiced tea. Sounds good. I did not create a wattail, but I do have something to drink. Uh, that I thought was perfectly appropriate for the setting of our episode. This is
Okay.
straight fireball whiskey.
Hmm. I'm not a fan. Like,
Oh,
it's a
I
very
like
common
cinnamon.
thing for people to like.
Mm.
I'm gonna go out here. People are gonna be mad about it. I don't like cinnamon. Period.
Again, you're not perfect. We hear you. We support you anyway. Well, a few notes before we jump into our content.
Love
Number
to hear
one,
it.
we
What do we
have
got?
we have a new listener nation for the first time in many weeks. Yes,
What do we got?
Lith- Lithuania.
That's
Someone in
fantastic.
Lithuania is now downloading our content, multiple episodes.
Well,
So,
welcome. It's
welcome.
good to have you or the VPN that you are using in this direction. I'm going to assume that you
Ah,
actually are from there, but
yeah.
that's fantastic. Glad to see you join.
I wonder what Lithuanians call themselves. I mean, in English, it's a Lithuanian, but I wonder what they say about themselves when they live in Lithuania.
Maybe they'll join the Discord just to inform you of that.
And everyone who listens to us, you are all welcome. That was a nice little segue. Come join us on Discord. You'll find an invitation to our Discord server in the show notes. And all are welcome to come and talk with us about all sorts of books and other fantasy and sci-fi content you enjoy, and just some other fun silliness.
What else we got, Dad?
Well, I have a not really a correction, just a clarification, harkening back
Okay,
to episode 103 when we talked about the Rift War cycle.
indeed.
I had I had questioned at that time whether or not a 4 book series is called a quadrilogy,
Yeah, I think I
like 3
said
books is
yes,
a
and you
trilogy.
said, "Is that even a word or something?"
Yeah, I was like, I think so. Maybe you thought so. Yeah. So I looked it up, and yes, definitely quadrilogy is an official term. But technically, the better word is a tetralogy. But who
You.
uses tetralogy? Nobody. So quadrilogy has become the accepted substitute for tetralogy. So you're all a little smarter
Interesting.
now today. There you go.
We have a lot of weird, different numbered prefixes for words. We just couldn't decide on one.
Yeah. mean, tetralogy kind of is a cool sounding word, but everybody knows quad means four, I
I mean,
guess.
Tetra
So,
does as well. It harkens me back to my chemistry days.
right? So it's definitely a sciencey, mathy word, but too sciencey and mathy maybe for most of common English speakers. All right, another thing I wanted to throw in that we don't do much of, but I thought might be a nice
Mhm.
thing to check in from time to time to see what are we actually reading for fun at the time we're doing an episode. So, what are you reading,
Oh,
Zach?
this is going to be disappointing as we keep going and see how slow I am reading. Um, because I love reading, but I have been going very slowly these last like couple months here. I've actually got a couple of things right now that I am reading, but the one that I'm going to mention is because it's right next to me. I'm currently still working my way through the 5th season by MK Jenner.
Wow. Yeah, you've
Yeah,
been
I'm
on that for a
still working
while.
my way through that one. I'm embarrassed that I haven't finished it yet. It is wonderful. I just haven't spent a lot of time that I've been able to read for pleasure. Most of my time reading has actually been like an audiobook of The Shadow Rising on my commute to and from work.
Okay. Well, yeah, life's been busy. It ebbs and flows when you can read. I, on the other hand, posted on our Twitter feed that
Mm-hmm.
I'm making great headway on my reading this year. So I challenged myself with a list of 62 stories I wanted to get through over the course of 12 months, and I'm already through 27 of them.
That's
So I'm doing pretty
really
good.
impressive.
I'm having fun. I'm plowing through. Audiobooks help because some of them I've been able to get
Mhm.
through during long car rides and such. But so I'm reading two things right now. One in audio, one in physical. The physical one, I'm in the midst of The Expanse. So I'm currently reading Sibylla Byrne, book 4 of The
Mhm.
Expanse. And for audio, I'm in the Rhaenyra Chronicles right now. I'm in book 3, The Death of Dolgeth. And there's only, no, I think there's 5 of those out right now, the Rhaenyra Chronicles. So I'm working through them, having a good time.
Fantastic.
Recommended both those series, The
By the
Expanse and
time
all things Rhaenyra.
by the time we get to the next episode, I imagine you'll have like 3 new books to mention, and I
Maybe.
may still be on this one.
Now, for the
Hopefully not.
record, the 5th season was actually kind of a hard book for me to get through. So if it's taking you a while, I have empathy.
I am enjoying it. It just is like gaps of time between when I read a chapter.
Gaps of time is actually very appropriate as you're reading that book. For reasons, I don't know how far you are in yet, so I won't go into more reasons there. All right. Let's see. I have just one last thing. Reminder
Okay.
again for everybody who's listening to this that we're still in the midst of our Frosty Mug Giveaway. If you want to have a chance at receiving one of the 2 Fantasy for the Ages Frosty Mugs that we'll
Mhm.
be shipping off to people, all you have to do is give us a fresh 4 or 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, specifically Apple Podcast, and write a review that's attached to that rating. It doesn't have to be huge and long. We'd prefer it's positive. If you don't feel like giving us a positive review, you probably don't want our Frosty Mug anyway.
That's
But
fair.
we're encouraging people to jump in on this, and then someone will get this shipped to them. Again, we're giving 2 away. We'll draw randomly when we get to the end of April. So you've got a little time still, but don't wait too long. All right, those are the notes.
Is
Let's
that
get
it?
on to content. Yes, yes. Originally, I was thinking to do 2 episodes. Nice.
2
Two
chapters
chapters
in this
today.
episode.
But in preparing for it, I
Mhm.
realized, oh my goodness, chapter 23, where we're starting, is such a massive chapter, both in length and
Mhm.
in its implications. There's a
Correct.
lot for us to talk about.
There's a
So I
lot that I'm
figured,
not sure we're always going to be able to talk about.
there's some of that. That's true. A lot of this might be important. Don't forget it now. We'll definitely consider some of that. But so we're just going to do chapter 23, and then I'm going to try to prepare us to do the next 3 chapters in our next WAD episode. It's going to be hard. It's a lot of content there too. But I'll just try to do some real editing magic and make it happen. In the meantime, let's just enjoy what we have to talk about today.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, this is picking right up after Rand, with all the Aiel and his traveling companions, activated the portal stone in Tyr. And now, ta-da! They're somewhere else. And we've not only jumped locations, we've jumped point of views. We're with Aguain now.
Oh, and no, something went wrong and their brains are in the wrong bodies. No,
it's not a Friday thing. No. What we are seeing is that Aguain, along with all the others, are adjusting to suddenly being in the Aiel Waste. And gee, is it hot! So it looks very different. The setting's completely changed. The climate's gone up in degrees. She's popping out sweat everywhere.
I love some of the descriptions here of just like suddenly being soaked and then evaporating. And it just, that feeling that you get when it's 120 or something and you step out from nice AC into heat.
It's a dry heat. Everybody says that's better than the humid, sticky heat. It can still kill you. It's very hot. Yes. Looking around, Aguain sees something that could be a portal stone. Why only could be? Do you remember what was the issue with the portal stone that she sees there?
If I remember correctly, it's like mostly in the ground.
It's kind of leaning and partly in the ground, yeah, but it's also wind scoured. Everything, that you could read on the one in Tyr, not so legible here. It's really taken a beating.
It's like this thing, sure, has the right shape and look, kind of, but you couldn't pick out and do what they had done with the one at Tyr.
Totally. And if you didn't know it was a portal stone, you probably wouldn't even recognize it as a portal stone. Yeah. So she sees that. She also sees they're surrounded by huge, rocky, mountainous peaks. Very barren, but rocky. And then down below them, from where they're standing, because they're kind of on the slope of a mountain side, one of these big mountains, down at the bottom, there's a valley. And the valley is full of a mass of dense fog, so you can't see the bottom of the valley. But sticking up out of the fog are some towers, the tops of some towers, some that don't even look finished. There was a mention that Rand had read about in one of those history books about a city in the clouds. And
that some peddler had seen this maybe and described it as that, and that's ridiculous. Well, not so ridiculous when the clouds are on the ground.
Yes. Now, Matt's there, and he's staring around in amazement, and almost you can be like, I'm all here. I made it.
I mean, it was a much more pleasant experience than the last time.
Yes, that's the truth, because he was pretty tense of what was going to happen going through a portal stone again. He also is noticing it's rather warm here. Whew. Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice to have like a hat or something to give you some shade? It's kind of burning. Rand is nearby, exhausted. I mean, he's on the ground, kneeling, one hand down, and Lan is going over to him and kind of helping him up, and he just looks completely drained. And Moraine goes up to him too, and she's admonishing him for pushing himself too far. She's like, you barely pulled that off. You almost failed, and if you'd failed, that could have been a disaster.
Barely pulled it off.
His point.
Sure, he pulled it off. Almost failed. He didn't.
That's right. She's like, you shouldn't take such chances. And his response, I don't take chances. That's Matt's gig.
Yeah. He was apparently confident. Squeeze that little Angreal he had pretty hard. Actually, like the little sword that he has poked into his hand. Not the prettiest, most fun of things.
He has a telling line here. He says, "I've outrun them all." What do you make of that line, Zach?
I mean, he traveled a long distance very quickly. If, say, people were chasing after him or trying to catch him, this would be outrunning them. And while immediately the thought is, oh, he outran the Forsaken, I think it's a bit more than that when he goes, outran them all. And we think back to his dream with all those different people trying to put their own yokes on him, including the Amerlin seat even. And no, he's out. He's away from all of it.
And I like to think that it's not just out away from all of it, all of them, but all of their plans.
Mm-hmm.
He's circumvented what anyone could have anticipated. There's no way they could have predicted he was here so far away so quickly. Ha!
Now, this is the moment when I want to remind us that we always have unreliable narrators. Maybe someone did predict it. We don't know.
Maybe.
He thinks they didn't.
Lan, as he's helping him up, he offers an affirming comment, basically saying, "You're right, Rand. You succeeded, and that's all that mattered." And Aguain's miffed. It's like, men. Sheesh. What a bunch of children. And of course, she's siding with Moraine's perspective. Not Rand, but kind of perhaps a little surprised that Lan's siding with Rand, but again, men. Now, Moraine takes a moment here to channel away some of Rand's exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
Just grabs his head and does it, noting being exhausted from channeling isn't the same as just being tired, so I can't truly wipe all of this away, but I can do something for you. And Rand, does the fling, as he gets channeled. The exhaustion gets drained away, but then he actually gives her what for? Basically saying, ask. I'm not your pet dog that you can just decide to do things to. Ask first.
He emphasizes that consent is important. Because it is.
Now, Aguain, watching this, is like, still, he's being such a child. He should be showing appreciation for what she just did for him, and all he can do is whine about it and make a power play.
Aguain, get a little bit of perspective. Come on. Just because it's something good doesn't mean someone necessarily wants it in that moment. Doesn't make it okay for you to force it on somebody.
And again, she sees Lan siding with Rand. I mean, he doesn't say anything, but he doesn't at all seem put out that Rand is giving Moraine what for.
I definitely mostly side with Lan on this, the whole Rand side. I do err on the side of, like, if he was dying, Moraine did it instead of asking for consent, that's okay. Good Samaritan stuff and all that is good. But also consent is very important.
Moving on, it's noted that there are 3 different camps of Aiel tents nearby. Now, 2 of them are on either side of them about half a mile off. And there are Aiel warriors pouring out of those tents. Some of them putting their veils up. And But the 3rd camp is smaller, and it's upslope from them. And from that direction, we have a voice called out, "The Peace of Ruidian." And, yeah, all these Aiel that are putting their veils up are like, yeah, take the veils down. It de-escalates very quickly. Remind us of what that was about, the Peace of Ruidian.
The Aiel, I spoke of this, Ruark kind of mentioned it, that anyone traveling to or from Ruidian is protected. It's very shameful to attack them. You wouldn't. Aiel just don't. A mistake might be made, but that's very shameful and very bad. It's just one of their traditions.
There are some different factors involved here, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. Nevertheless, this voice had called out to calm things down, and it has an effect. And our group looks up to where that voice came from. And there are 4 women walking down from the smaller cluster of tents. And Egwene recognizes one of them,
Mhm.
Amis, the wise one who had told her in the dream to come to her for training.
Well, to come to her in Cold Rock's hold for training.
Yes. And she had mentioned she should be back from Ruidian by then. Well, ta-da! Here
Turns
we
out,
are.
Egwene got here a bit faster than expected.
Yes. Now, all of these women are dressed very similarly, so we might infer they're all wise ones. They aren't dressed like we've seen other Aiel. Oh, something happened with your sound, and I lost you.
Was that a little funky? Still funky?
Yes. A little
Okay.
scratchy something.
Let me see what I can do.
Ooh. Can you hear me fine?
You were funky.
Okay, you're gone completely now. Yeah, Jordo's saying sound went wobbly. And it's got your mic is off now. I've got a symbol for that.
I messed with some things and was muted, and now I'm not muted. How about now?
Okay, you're back. You're back.
So
Don't
for
know what
those of you
happened.
listening to the podcast later, none of that happened, and it's great. For those of you
The
watching,
magic of editing.
that's interesting.
Oh, Jordo says he hasn't heard you yet.
I may need to fix the Discord
Check your
sound
setting
too.
in Discord. Yeah.
Yeah, give me a sec.
So, Jordo, you've only been listening to me the whole time so far? That'd be funny.
All right. Hopefully, maybe.
Oh, just as it went wobbly. Okay, he had heard you before. He's typing again, so maybe he heard you now.
Or he still doesn't, and
Still
nope.
can't
Nope.
hear him now.
Okay. We're gonna go real funky.
Keep trying,
in
son.
Our things. Feel free to keep telling everybody what's going on.
Jordo thinks it might be him, but I don't think so.
I don't think it was. It may be me here.
Okay, so now you're both coming
That
back
should
in.
fix it and make it a little better. Should. And if it doesn't, that's a problem.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up if you can hear him now, Jordo, or just say it. He's typing. Yes, you can hear. Hey, we're back. Woohoo! Okay,
Technical
that
difficulties.
will be some editing I will have to figure out how to do. Moving on. Let's see. We've got these 4 women, likely all wise ones. The one who Egwene recognized as Amis, well,
Yes.
Ruark goes right up to her. You might recall, Ruark is married to Amis.
Correct.
And Amis's sister wife.
That
He's
is
got
also
2 wives.
correct.
Yes. So he greets her and he notes, "I'm back, but probably not the way you thought I would be." And she responds simply that, "Well, I knew you would be here today."
She didn't know how or why. Well, maybe the why. But knew today.
Yeah. Now, at that, Egwene and Moraine have a brief conversation, confirming Moraine's remark back in Tyr that we would perhaps see the power of dreaming in this attempt to use the portal stone. See, the letter from the wise ones had stated that they would see Moraine here in this location on this day. Moraine didn't fight harder to stop Rand from using the portal stone because, okay, if the dreamers had seen it, that probably means what Rand was going to attempt was going to succeed because that would get her to Ruidian on that day.
This is a weird small note, But like the fact that that's a thing tells me that the Aiel and the rest of this land share a calendar.
Yes. You could infer that.
Like,
And
I
I would
don't
think
think
that would be
Moraine
safe.
reasonably would understand an Aiel calendar if it was different.
Right.
And I said I might be the one that's most likely, but I still don't think so. So, fun
Yep.
world building.
I don't think we'll overthink that one, but I think you're probably right. Now, with that thought, then, Egwene's kind of excited. Remember, she thinks she's a dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
So, with dreaming, I may be able to predict the future.
And that accurately, too.
Ooh, yeah. Tell me more. That's what she wants to get to now. Now, two Aiel men approach from those separate larger camps at this point, one from each side. Okay. Ruark addresses one of them, doesn't even look at the other one. So the one he addresses is Hirn, who's one of Ruark's people.
Fantastic.
And Ruark questions, why are you guys here? Do you think I was dead? What would that be implying?
That theoretically they were sending a new member of their own clan into Rudion to become a clan chief.
To take Ruark's place. Yes, that would be a justification for them to be here. Hirn explains, oh, no. We came because Amis was coming. And we accompanied her and the wise ones who traveled with her. She knew that you would be here today. And so we came along to keep her safe.
Which is talking through things and kind of a blatant lie, but not that blatant.
Well, and that other guy standing there that they've ignored, he's irritated at that comment, getting a little red in the face. And Moraine, Aguain, they're watching this and they don't know exactly what's going on, but Lan does. And Lan leans down and he shares with them, okay, that was an insult. No Aiel would harm a wise one.
Mm-hmm.
So they did not travel along to protect wise ones. They actually, knowing he was going to be here, that means they came to protect him from other Aiel. Which is also an insult because Peace of Ruidian, you shouldn't have to worry about anything.
It shouldn't have been a problem in the first place.
But clearly these doofuses, they may not be honorable enough to respect that. Major insult! Zing!
At which point we basically get a fun little interaction where Moraine's like, I didn't know you know so much about Aiel. And Lan's just like, well, you never asked.
That's right. I fought them in the past. I got to know something of their ways. She's like, yeah, you're going to tell me more about that later. Now we get to learn a little bit about that other man, the one they've been insulting. We learn his name is Couladin, and he's of the Shido Aiel. Should we recognize the Shido, that name?
Yes, those stinking Shido.
That's right. Ruark was just disparaging them in the last chapter.
Tardad, Shido don't really get along because supposedly those dogs have no honor.
Well, there's some easy wordplay to help keep these straight.
Shady.
Tardad, trusty, true. Shido, suck. That works.
I definitely felt like Shido to Shady fit easier, but I'm okay with saying they suck.
But the Shido suck, yeah, okay. So, why is he here? We learn, okay, their clan chief died, and Couladin's brother, Muradin, is currently down in Ruidian. He's doing whatever's supposed to be done so that he can become the next clan chief. But we get from the comment that's made next that it's not necessarily a given. Sometimes things go wrong because he says if Muradin fails to return, then I will be going in next. Now, hold your horses there. The wise ones correct him. What's wrong with him saying he's going to go in next?
Well, he doesn't have the right to that. He does have the right to ask. However, to go into Ruidian, you must ask the wise ones, and they will collectively tell you yes or no if there are enough of them present to decide that.
Yes. So we learned something here about the power structure of the Aiel. The wise ones have apparently some pretty enormous sway. Okay, you can't hurt a wise one, and they get to give the authorization or not for someone to have the chance to go down and perhaps become the clan chief.
In a way,
Whoa.
it kind of mirrors back to even the Two Rivers, where the men may be in charge, but the women are really in charge.
Couladin is not happy to be corrected. He's like, it's my right to go down. And again, they're like, it's your right to ask. And in fact, you kind of suck.
We would say no.
I don't think you're a broken man, dude. There's something screwy here. We would not be sending you down. They don't flat out say no at this point. They just give the very strong impression, if you do ask, you're not going to like the answer.
Yeah, they say no in all but saying exactly no. Because they weren't
Aguain's impression
asked.
Of Couladin, though, is he would probably ask anyways, because she's not getting a real good vibe off of him. She's like,
yeah,
he really reminds me of the Congers and the Coplans back home. Those type of people you kind of got to keep an eye on, because they're not so good.
And he definitely gives the vibe that if anyone's gonna not respect the answer they're told when they're said whether they can or can't go into Ruidian, it would be him.
Right. Next, we move on to a surprising interaction. Though it's not a surprise to everyone. Because the wise ones, they look over to Rand. And they're clearly expecting something of him. So they look at him like, your turn. And he speaks up.
Mm-hmm.
He approaches and he asks permission to enter Ruidian. He uses some very formal phrasing. And they acknowledge, well, that's kind of an old format to ask, but
it is
it's
proper.
still proper. So they start asking each other, do we grant permission? And a couple of them say yes. I say yes. And others, I say yes. And before they can all respond, Couladin goes off. He's like, what the heck? Okay, why is Couladin throwing a hissy fit?
Well, because Couladin is claiming Rand is not Aiel. He's not one of the Aiel people. How can he be allowed into Ruidian, a place that only Aiel are allowed to go for this purpose?
Particularly when you just said, I can't go.
Yeah.
I'm an Aiel. I deserve to go down there.
Little brat.
You're going to let this Outlander in? Sup. It's wrong. Now, Aguain is shocked as she hears Rand counter Couladin's argument by saying, I claim this right by blood. My mother was Aiel.
Now, he very quickly is actually corrected.
He is.
As he's basically told, sit down. No, your mom's not Aiel. Your dad was. Anyway, so the wise ones know something.
Yeah, they've got some hidden knowledge on him. And it still doesn't change the fact that he has a right by blood. He is part Aiel.
Mm-hmm.
But not the way he thought he was. And Egwene's head is just spinning. Because she's like, wait, Tam and Cariel Thor were his parents. What the heck is this all about?
Meanwhile, we as readers, basically from the beginning of the first book, we're pretty sure neither of those were his parents.
Yes. One side note here. Mm-hmm. In the voting about whether Rand's request to enter Ruidian will be allowed, we do get to know the names of each of these four wise ones now. Because they do each take turn to be addressed by name and then give their answer. And they do all answer yes. But so in addition to Amis, we have, how would you say these names, Zach?
Bear.
Yep.
Sienna.
Okay.
And Melaine.
The only one I'm not sure is Sienna might be Sienna. But I think you're right. I think Sienna is the one that makes more sense there. The other two, that's exactly what I remember. All right. Now,
I'm
why
just
did I
glad you
bring up the
didn't try to
names?
tell me it was Mulaney or something. I'd be
No. Malane.
very upset.
First time readers, remember these names.
Mhm.
Okay, that there's significance to these characters, so remember their names. Okay,
Most, if not all, of the people we're meeting here that are getting named, um, Robert Jordan did it on purpose.
it's part of why we have to take time just to do this chapter. All of these people we're meeting, or nearly all, are significant. This is where they're introduced. You're going to want to know these people and not forget how you met them. So, okay, Rand's been given permission. Couladin is not happy. This is the way it's going to go. And then chaos! Because Matt steps up.
Yep.
And he also asks permission to go into Ruidian. Rand is just as surprised as everyone else. It's like they all look at
This
him
one
like,
surprises everyone.
what the heck, dude? And Matt was standing there when all this stuff went on about he can't go in, he's an outlander, and then no, Rand is part Aiel, so we're gonna allow him to go in. Okay, so he knows, Matt knows, I can't go in. I'm an outlander. So what do? I step up and ask to go in.
In for a penny, in for a pound. Let's go.
And while everybody is shocked and no one says anything at first, Couladin does take action because it's like he snaps. That's it. That's too much. He takes a spear and tries to stab it right through Matt.
Yeah, screw the piece of Ruidian.
Uh-huh. And then we get a reveal. Because from Aguain's point of view, she sees Amis and Malane instantly surrounded with the glow of Sidar, and Couladin goes flying.
Well, goodness.
Dozen paces away.
Looks like wise ones, or at least some of them, can channel.
Woohoo! Yeah, that's a new one. We'd heard nothing about that up till this point. Clearly. Wow. There's channelers here. Dang, there's channelers everywhere. We
I'm
had
not
the
that
channelers
surprised
that were
that pretty
Aes
much
Sedai.
all of them would try to hide from Aes Sedai. Most of the Aes Sedai we meet, not very fun.
Couladin, he scrambles back over. He's denouncing Rand being allowed into Ruidian, but at least, okay, fine. He is Aiel. Wise ones, you said he can go. He's still a soft wetlander, and Ruidian will kill him. But fine. But this guy? Seriously? You cannot let this guy in. And he's making the point that outlanders are forbidden to even be in the presence of Ruidian. Like, that's a death sentence right there.
Being here, they should kill him.
For Matt to have asked to actually go in is sacrilege. And Couladin, will not stand for this. So the wise ones, of course, execute Matt then.
No.
No, that's what Couladin wants. But instead, wise ones dismiss Couladin. Go to your tent.
If you won't stand for this,
and Heron.
go sit in a corner.
Yes. And the other two guys, you guys go to the tents too. Okay? This is business of wise ones. We're going to take care of stuff. You guys scram. So they do. Again, wise ones in charge.
Yeah. Couladin does it much more huffier, but he does.
Yeah. With those three out of the way, now they have a discussion about Matt's request. So here's the deal. He can't go in. It's not permitted. But Matt insists he must go in. He doesn't give a reason. I must go in. Just being here isn't enough. Okay, why must he enter, Zach? What do we know that they don't know?
He may have been told by some snaky people that if he doesn't, he'll die.
Mm-hmm.
And if he does, he maybe will be okay. Maybe, but also like not necessarily. It just doesn't look good for him.
And again, he shared that with no one else.
Yeah.
But with no Aiel blood in him, the wise ones insist we have to deny your request. That's just not done. And Rand then interjects. He comes with me. You gave me permission to go in. I'm telling you, he comes with me. And now they're like,
that's not really how it works. But
and yet they turn to each other. They have a quick debate. And we hear a reference to, the time of change. And if he is who we think he is, that means things are going to change, and maybe this is one of those things, and so we just need to roll with it. So they grant Matt's request. But they also warn him, people who go to Ruidian, some of them never come back. And some returned out of their minds. So we're not really doing you any favors.
It's okay. I think Matt will take his chances. He likes the odds.
But a couple of special instructions are given here. One, they must leave no weapons. Leave no weapons. Nice. They must leave their weapons. Okay. They can't take any weapons in with them. They also must take no food or water. And that's a tradition in remembrance of the wandering of the Aiel after the breaking of the world.
So Matt and Rand do actually comply here. Rand,
not too tough.
He puts down his belt knife, and he also does actually put down the Angreal, basically going, that's the best I can do. I am the weapon. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm a living weapon. Yeah.
Meanwhile, Matt, those fun comical scenes where someone just keeps pulling weapons out and the pile just gets bigger?
It's exactly what happens.
Right here. And
he's pulling so many,
kind of look impressed.
Yeah, so many daggers and blades out of hidden spots. They're kind of in awe.
He even gets near the end. It's a big pile already. Pauses, and then pulls another knife out of each boot.
Yep. Oh, almost forgot these.
Sure you did, Matt.
Well, with that, Rand and Matt, they head down into the valley. When they're gone, Aguain steps up to Amis and begins to speak. And Amis is like, stop, talk to the hand.
Yeah, because I do want to throw a little thing as Rand and Matt are leaving. Once they've done all this, there's a comment that basically they are dead to them at that moment. And they don't get
until they return.
Them. Yep.
Yeah.
They do not even look at them. The wise ones cover their eyes. I love personally, though, that the dead can speak to each other, as Matt says, so they can talk to each other as they walk off.
Yeah, they converse as they head down the hill, the mountainside. But Amis, she doesn't have time to talk to Aguain yet. She looks right at Lan, and she states, this is now women's business. You need to leave as well. Go to the tents. Ruark will offer you water and shade. And Lan, well, he looks at Moraine, and she gives him a slight nod, and so he moves off to the tents. Now, the wise ones, they didn't call him Lan. They called him Analine, which Moraine recognizes as Old Tongue for one man. And she asks, why'd you call him that? Well, they acknowledge they know who he is, that he's the last of the Malkiri, that he's the man who will not give up his war against the Shadow, even though he's the only one left. And they consider him of great honor.
Now, that being said, they also recognize that they've fought many times, but that doesn't mean they can't respect him.
Absolutely. They also share that they knew he would be, I say this right, they knew from the dream that if Moraine came, Lan would be with her. But they didn't know he would be obeying her orders.
I believe they said if Moraine came, he probably would be with. It wasn't 100%, I don't think.
There's other things that aren't 100%.
I don't think that's what they said, because I think it ticks Moraine off.
Nope, they said if Moraine came. That's the part that's not 100%. I'm double checking the text here, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
You very well may be, but there's a piece of me thinks.
Here's what it says. I knew from the dream that if you came, oh, dang it.
I'm right.
I knew from the dream that if you came, it was almost certain Analine would be as well, or would as well. But I did not know he obeyed you. That's a text. So you're right. We got to mark these down when Zach's actually right. So there you go.
It reveals they are not as superpowered as Aguain hoped. They had an if she was here today. So they can't just predict the future and say they knew she would be here. But the other side of this being, Moraine has reason to be kind of upset, being like, that's just another point of Lan being a little less loyal, a little less consistent. Nynaeve, why you under his skin?
That he might not have come with.
Exactly.
Ooh,
I mean, he was trying to go protect Nynaeve.
Now that bit about them being surprised he obeys her, she just casually explains that as he's my warder. It's just how it is. Now, Bear calls Avienda forward, declaring, "It is time. You have put things off long enough." Avienda cries out in defiance, "I'm a maiden of the spear. I don't want to be a wise one." Probably didn't sound quite that whiny, but that's kind of the point.
It sounds pretty accurately whiny.
So through this, we learn a few things. Avienda has been avoiding this. And Amis, she was the same way back in her day. She was a maiden of the spear. She was called to be a wise one. She didn't want to do it. In fact, she tried to run away from this task numerous times and had to be punished again and again until they finally wore her down so that she would do her duty to be a wise one. It wasn't a choice. She needed to be a wise one. Now, what was the reason for the duty? Not all wise ones have to become wise ones. But certain women of the Aiel, they do have to, and Avienda fits that category. And this is revealed now. Avienda can channel. So any of the Aiel women who have the ability to channel are going to be wise ones. No question. That's how you serve your people.
Or at least those who are born with the spark in them, those that will channel whether they try to or not.
Yes. So Aguain gets this revelation now. Avienda is just like Aguain and Nynaeve, and Moraine for that matter, women who had that natural spark. They were going to channel no matter what. So that's why she sensed a kinship with Avienda from the first time she met her. She realizes now
something familiar. It's not because she's Aiel or looks kind of like Rand or is a similar personality. No, it's because you were sensing she could channel.
Right. And with that ding in Egwene's head, looking around, she realizes she can sense that same kinship to Moraine, as well as to the two wise ones who flung Húladin with the power, but not in the other two. Right. So she now realizes she can sense the ability of a woman to touch the true source. And also, she's recognizing then that not all wise ones can channel. Some can, some can't. Also, then, at this point, she realizes, so Moraine must have known Avienda could channel all along.
Oh, yeah, the whole time.
Surely, she would have sensed it. She'd never said anything. The wise ones, however, they also are thinking the same thing. They must have read something in Moraine's face or in her body language, but she's like, so you were thinking to take Avienda to the White Tower, weren't you?
Well, Moraine's yeah.
She's like, she has great potential. And if properly trained, she could be as strong as Aguain. And I would want that for her, of course.
The wise ones kind of clap back and go, you're right. Properly trained, she will be that strong. And we will do it.
Yeah, one of them actually, Melaine, actually says, I've talked to some of your Aes Sedai. I've heard how you train. Yeah, we don't coddle women like that. We're going to, while you'd be still having her play games, we're going to have her doing real stuff.
And Egwene's we have no time for games. Kind of stinging at the words coddling as she's going, that's being kind?
And Egwene's also thinking, her time of training was the hardest experience of her life. So what is Avienda going to have to experience if that's coddling? Yeah, wow. All right, let's get on with more of the formalities then of what Avienda has to do. She turns over her stuff, her spears, her shield, and the wise ones just chuck it aside like rubbish. And Egwene's like, oh, those were important to her. And then, likewise, take off your clothes. chuck these aside. She's left standing there bare naked. And Aguain feels like they're being so harsh, and they actually notice that. She makes a comment about it and says, yes, this stuff is rubbish. That's how you must become when you become a wise one. You leave everything behind. It's worthless. You're moving on to something new. Aguain had something similar happen back in the White Tower
It
when
just
she
wasn't
became
so in her
accepted.
face.
Right, not so harsh.
Therefore,
And now they're given
maybe this is a little piece of that comparing that coddling. Where the White Tower just kindly burned all their things, separating them from their past ties. The wise ones make you watch while they do it.
Yep. Now they give specific instructions to Avienda of what she needs to do. She is to go down to Ruidian and find 3 rings to walk through. They describe what they'll look like. And in them, she will see her own future laid out in a few different ways. Perhaps like possibilities of what she might expect in the future. They say these can be hard to watch, hard to absorb, but learning about your future and understanding it is the beginning of becoming wise. Ha, see, wise ones? Okay.
Mm-hmm. And
says some women can't handle it.
The accepted test.
Yeah, that's what she's thinking. She also, as she's thinking accepted test, she's recognizing these rings. These are Terangrial. Mm-hmm. They have Terangrial, just like we have in the tower. I was also, when they're talking to her about what she's going to have to try to accept and that some can't handle it, I was so hearing that movie, you can't handle the truth! And Jack Nicholson just shouting at her now.
There's a few good Aiel, I guess.
Nice. With all that explained, they wish Avienda success and they send her off. She and Aguain share one last hand squeeze of care for each other, and then off she goes, bounding down the mountain in a birthday suit. Now, Aguain, she's like, okay, that's done. Tries to bring up her reason for being here again. And once again, the wise ones slow her roll. They say, okay, we acted in haste now. We've plowed through this stuff, getting ran down there as fast as possible before the Shido, think it through further and try to stop him with arms. Mm-hmm. And Avienda, because she delayed for so long, we got to get this going now. You're way overdue.
There was need for that stuff, but now we get to be a good host.
Right. Now we can calm down. We have time to talk, to kick back a little. Now, Aguain wants to follow up on one of those things. She's like, wait a second. The Shido might have tried to attack Rand? I thought you guys had said he was your prophesied, he who comes with the dawn. Why would they do that?
Well, he may, if he lives. And even if he does, some people might not be happy about it.
Yeah, there's not necessarily that they're saying there's going to be uniform consensus that, oh, it's him. Especially when the Shido look at him and they don't see an Aiel. They see Outlander clothes and the dude's riding a horse. Could be problematic.
Yeah.
We might want to pay attention to that moving forward and see, is that problematic? If he lives.
Yeah, clearly Rand is going to die right here, actually.
Yeah, this isn't a Song of Ice and Fire.
The rest of these books have nothing to do with Rand.
They go on to note, again, that, the Shido, they do have some justification for their anger. Because, again, Outlanders are forbidden from being here. And they see 5 Outlanders. Now, the wise ones are saying there's really only 4. Rand doesn't count as an Outlander, even though he looks wrong. We can even see his mother and father in his eyes and features. We know he is who he is. The Shido aren't going to agree, probably.
Not so much.
But we have allowed Rand, who they probably see as an Outlander, into Ruidian. And then Matt. I mean, there's no argument on that one.
Yeah,
he doesn't belong. Yeah, so if they're mad,
they have a reason to be.
Yeah. Now, Aguain tries to divert the conversation to one extra little thing you mentioned earlier, Rand's parents. Can you tell me more about that? And they clam up.
We could, but it's not ours to tell.
That was wrong, sorta. I mean, it is theirs to tell, but not to her.
Yeah, it's not theirs to tell her. It would be someone else's to tell her.
Yeah, that story is for Rand, they say, if he wants to
Exactly.
hear it. And yeah, the implication you could take as you were going is that then if Rand wants to tell her, that'd be fine. But it's not our place to tell you Rand's story.
Mm-hmm.
So what will we do now? Well, they invite them to join them up at the tents of the Wise Ones. Along the way, they come to a man dressed in hooded white robe, who they task with caring for the horses. And Egwene's like, servant? Does he know anything about horses? He'll don't do horses. Hope that's going to be okay. Then they enter into a large tent. Oh, you have a comment. What?
Yeah, because I want to. I don't ride horses, but like they don't do horses like at all. I know they don't do a lot of pack animals and stuff, but there are mentions here and there of some pack animals that carry things.
Yes, but those are mules. They have pack mules. Honestly, horses are not the best animals if you're just looking for pack animals.
No, but I feel like Egwene, as farm folk, should understand if they can take care of a mule for the sake of just this little bit. It's not like they're going crazy taking care of raising and training these horses. They're just making sure they're fed, watered, and not running off. If you could do that with a mule, you could probably do it with a horse.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right, ducking into this tent, Egwene is treated to another surprise. Because all she's seen is the exterior that seems to match what you've seen of the Aiel and the climate. Everything is browns and grays and drab, and then inside it's all color and soft. There's rich, soft carpeting, rugs, and big cushy pillows all over the floor. No chairs, but comfort. It's
They
like,
have a bougie
wow.
tent.
It's like they're making up for what the exterior looks like with the way they decorate inside.
Mm-hmm.
They all settle down into these thick carpets and pillows and just kick back. Like it's time to relax now. And more of these white-robed Aiel come forward with drinks. They chilled wine and water. It's offered to everybody. They take a moment to formally introduce themselves, and we get all these seps and clans and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Egwene identifies herself as an
A
Aes Sedai of
liar.
the Green
Sorry.
Aja. Moraine kind of twitches just a little bit,
But
but she's
she
sticking with
kind
the
of does
story.
have to keep up the lie, considering she already told Amis the same thing.
Well, she could have corrected it right now. She could have. She could have said, you caught me off guard before, or there was a reason I was posing before, but that reason isn't needed here now. So, I mean, she could have.
Could
She
have,
doesn't.
doesn't, and it's kind of understandable that she doesn't.
It's the path of least resistance to stick with the story.
Yeah. I'm sure that won't have any
And what?
future implications.
No, no, no. Once the introductions are done, Egwene feels like the formality just falls away. Everybody truly relaxes, and now we're just going to chat. You're now our guests, and let's relax and get to know each other a little.
Yes.
So, what do they talk about? Well, one of the first things that they talk about are these white-robed people, and they
Mm-hmm.
learn that they're called Gaishain. Okay, the Gaishain, Gaishain. As I looked at it, I was like, how do I say this word? I can't remember it now.
I've always said guys shine.
Gaishain. Yeah, that makes sense. It's the same vowels. Gaishain.
Yeah.
Wow, I feel like I need to look that up now. That's bad.
Do it. You've got the book in front of you.
Yeah, they don't have pronunciations a lot of times in the book.
They probably
I'd have
have
to
guys
look it
shine.
up online. I'll look.
We're gonna check that glossary, and maybe this will be
maybe
time
it does.
2 in a row that I'm right.
Yeah, that one's not there. It's
Darn.
not there at all. Well, that sucks. But
Well, we hoped.
Gaideen is there, and it's the same vowels. So Gaideen, Guy Shine. Yeah, now that I'm repeating it, it sounds better. Guy Shine.
It sounds better the
Okay.
more you do it.
Yeah. So these guys shine, they are not servants. It's like, what are you talking about?
No, that's
They're not
offensive.
servants.
They
Yeah.
serve,
They do
but they're not
serve
servants.
by choice. They serve.
Kind of.
Can you explain any more about this guy shine thing?
So it's explained that it's all part of this system, Jiito.
Jito, yes.
And that translates loosely to like honor and obligation.
Yes, G being honor and to being obligation.
And within this system, there's different things that you can do to gain more honor or things that might be deserving of obligation. But one of the things that is most honorable is in combat, not killing. That killing someone's easy. Anyone could do that. But if you can successfully, this is where I got a little confused. It basically was like, what, if you can hit them with your hand? The wording is like you can lay your hand on them without ever crossing with a spear. So it kind of seems like you are fighting with spears and you choose to just like tap them on the back. If you can do that,
touch them and they can't harm you,
then
you have great.
It's not quite like you've taken them captive. It's not quite like you've killed them, but rather instead, the common thing would be that person, then it's their obligation to honor you by serving you for a year and a day.
Now, I'm not sure I'd buy that last part a little bit. It's not so much obligation to do that. It's that they lost G when that happened. And so to regain it, they're going to serve. That's how they regain their honor.
Yes, they have toe. If you take the literal translation, having toe means they have an obligation.
Yes.
So but yes, they have lost honor, and to regain that, they have an obligation to do this.
But they don't have to. They choose to. I'd say they have an obligation if they say, I will be your guy shine to regain my chi. And then if they were to duck out, now they have toe. Now there's a problem. But I don't know that they have toe when they are serving, because that's honorable.
Serving. I don't know, because, I mean, if this happened and you don't let someone, if you don't go be guy shine, then that's a problem. Like, it's not like a problem, but it is a, ooh, you're scummy problem.
Now, Native Americans, some Native American tribes actually had something like this. And I remember learning in history class that it was far more of an accomplishment to touch someone than to kill them. If you could touch them and get away unscathed, you stole their honor. You now had great honor amongst your own people. You were far more accomplished because, as the Aiel say, it's easy to kill someone. It takes a lot more skill to get in and ding them without getting hurt and you know. So this is drawing. Robert Jordan is drawing from some Native American traditions here. Aguain, listening to all this, is like, these Aiel are insane. What the heck?
Mm-hmm.
She's like, so they have to serve now for a year and a day if they're guy shine? I mean, why wouldn't they just run away? And they're like, are you kidding?
They would never
run away. And then they tell a story. I don't have this in the notes.
It's a great story.
Yeah. Of this one warrior who, like, on a raid, bumped into a woman who was like working in the kitchen. She wasn't a maiden of the spears, and she had a carving knife in her hand.
Mm-hmm.
And she felt this was a weapon.
It wasn't just like some woman. It was the roof mistress.
the roof mistress, the one in charge of the workings of the hold. And she went to that warrior after the battle and said, "You need to take me as Guy Shine because you have stolen my honor." And he's like, "No, no, no, no. I mean, we weren't fighting. You're not a maiden." She's like, "You will take me," and badgered him into taking her as a Guy Shine. And now
But
she's a
wait,
very
there's more.
strong personality person. Over the course of that year, then she had him married to one of her daughters. So now his mother-in-law is his Guy Shine.
Mhm. And he goes, "That's not right. That's a problem." So he tries to like give the Guy Shine of the mother-in-law to his wife and just kind of like transfer things. It'll be okay.
And
Well,
they're
that blows up in his face,
offended.
and he basically has to take his wife as Guy Shine as well.
Now he didn't. He didn't have to.
No,
He almost had to,
but
but
it
that
was
was almost a
real
nightmare.
close.
Yes, yeah. And of course, the Ios are telling the story. They're laughing. This is so funny that this happened. And again, Egwene's like, this makes no sense to her. This Jito stuff just sounds stupid.
Apparently,
I'm
the
sure.
Maidens of the Spear take Guy Shine and Jito very, very seriously. Like, all I'll do, the Maidens are like really on it, apparently.
Yeah. Now we've got all that conversation, but eventually Moraine takes us down a new direction. She wants to go back to that comment that she did catch earlier about when they were anticipating Moraine coming today, that it was if she came. They'd written that letter knowing she would come. But now she's like, wait a second, you didn't know I was going to come? And so they clarify. Seeing the future in dreams is not nearly so clear as seeing what is right now. You can learn things about right now in the dream, but the future, a little dicier. For instance, they had no idea that Aguain and Matt would be coming with them. That's out of left field. Nothing in the dream suggested that. They did not know if Rand would come. They thought he would, but they did know that if he failed to come, he would die, as would the Aiel. So this was really actually a big deal. This is why they were searching for him. They needed him to come. And now he's gone to Ruidian. And if he survives, so again, they don't know if he's going to survive that. If he survives, some of the Aiel will survive.
And notably, not all. Some of the Aiel will survive through the long term, not just like right now.
Yeah, they've seen some future, though, where some really bad things clearly are going to happen, and they're trying to manipulate things in the direction that seem to be the least bad of the stuff that's coming. They also share, if Moraine had not come, Rand would have died. So they knew she needed to be here. And if Lan had not come, Moraine would have died. Great.
Sounds about right.
And finally, one of them says, and if Moraine does not go through the rings...
Oops.
Yeah, she cuts herself off. What?
Well, now we don't even know if that's the... It's that great moment where we hop over to the MCU and Doctor Strange can't actually tell us if we're in the right one to win or not, because then it would change the outcome. Except this came first.
Now, Moraine doesn't react to that slipped comment at all. Instead, she goes on to a bunch of knowledge she's learned and assumptions she's made and just lays it out there, all being drawn from the Old Tongue language. Because a lot of these words are being used by the Aiel, and also some of the things used by the Aes Sedai, they're Old Tongue. So she talks about, okay, Teleron Riad. When you've talked about the world of dreams, you've used that term, Teleron Riad. And a lot of the things from the Old Tongue have multiple translations. You know, we say that's the world of dreams, but that can also be translated as the unseen world. And even those two don't really fully describe Teleron Riad. Okay,
that's
another example.
What Moraine's missing here is a 2-word phrase called wolf dream.
Another phrase she mentions, you used on a line for my warder. And we said that means one man. But it also could mean the man who is an entire people. Could mean both of those. Speaking of that man, my warder, we call warders Gaideen. Gaideen means brothers to battle. Aes Sedai. Typically, we understand that to mean servant of all. Now let's talk about Aiel, because that's an old tongue word.
Mm-hmm.
It means dedicated, but stronger than just being dedicated. It means like in your bones, you have an oath written upon you that you cannot stray from. What might that mean about you then? What are Aiel dedicated to?
And if she
before we
hadn't
answer
already, if she hadn't already put her foot in her mouth, she does here with this next one.
Yeah, she says, then there's this thing some of you have mentioned, the Gen Aiel, which that would translate to the true dedicated. Perhaps the only true dedicated? Like the only true Aiel? So she just puts all this out there. And the wise ones, all friendly and relaxed, have all turned very stony-faced. They're not saying anything.
Nope.
And Aguain is like, dang, girl, why you have to be such a downer? We're having a good chat, and you just... So she tries to shift the conversation again. Let's talk about dreaming. She's tried
so many times. So many times.
And once again, Amis puts her off. This time with a little more information. She's saying, later, okay, you may be Aes Sedai, but for dreaming, you're going to need to become a pupil again. So I will start teaching you, but tonight, okay? Not now. That's to come. And then suddenly Moraine stands up and starts taking off her dress. She's saying, I assume I have to go the same way Avienda did? And the wise ones, they look at each other like, oh, crap, man. Okay, what's the problem?
Well, the problem is that in all of the possibilities that they had seen, whether Moraine went through whether Moraine went through the rings or not, in none of them did they tell her that they had seen she go through the rings.
Right. They'd seen futures where she requested to do it. It always was initiated by her.
And now it is not.
Did they just screw this up by planting that seed? They've clearly changed it from what they had seen. And Moraine is like, so is that bad? And they're like, there's no way to really know. Sorry, we can't tell. So yes, Moraine takes all her clothes off. She's just like Avienda was. Naked as a jaybird. And just before she leaves to head down the hill, she tells them, please prevent Lan from following me. Because he's going to try. As soon as he senses I'm heading down here, he's going to come after me. And they're like, what will be, will be. They don't make any promises. And off she goes. Give her credit. She's running down the hill just like Avienda.
Honestly, it's a good amount of credit considering she is not the hardened maiden of the spear that Avienda is, both for fitness and for just like toughness of feet. She's not used to running like this, and now she is barefoot running down a mountainside.
So, side tangent here. Ruidian has got to be in the TV show eventually. I mean, it's too big a piece to this world to just skip it, to just leave that out. So will we still see the same sort of tradition on TV that when the women go to Ruidian, they go naked? What do you think?
I think if it's a plan that they're going towards and for, especially as we've seen with like Game of Thrones and nudity being popular for a fantasy genre adult TV show, it's a really easy place to put it in because it's already there.
They have already shown nudity tastefully limited on the TV show that wasn't even in the books.
Mm-hmm. And it feels like they may sit more on the side of doing things along that route.
Mm-hmm.
So we may yet be seeing a tasteful, not actually seeing of nudity. we'll see.
I partly brought up the question because in the Wheel of Time fandom, there are some who get annoyed by this. That, okay, the guys had to leave their weapons, the women have to leave their clothes. Really, Robert
Yeah.
Jordan? What's the deal?
No, I mean, I personally think the guys should have also had to leave their clothes. That would have made sense.
Maybe
That
that's
being
what they do on
said,
TV. Everyone's naked.
if, say, the guys went in and they don't know what they're going to, what they're looking for, they weren't given information. Avienda and Moraine know what they're looking for, and we know from having seen a very similar object with the accepted test that it is entered naked. So
That's
perhaps
true.
it is simply a
maybe-
product of what they are doing in Ruidian.
Perhaps. Now, once Moraine's gone, Aguain asks, is she going to survive? Oh, excuse me. Is she going to survive this? And Sienna shares, we don't know. We knew she's supposed to go down there. We don't know what happens. And explains, Ruidian is one of the places that you cannot enter in Teleron Riyadh. So you can't see what happens in Ruidian. There's a few places like that. Ogier Stedding, for example. We can't see what happens inside of Steddings. A few other places. They don't mention what other places, but it's something
There are a
unique
few of
then
them.
about certain locations where a person using the world of dreams to see now or future, they can't tell. It's blocked from the world of dreams. Finally, Aguain asks, okay, so everybody else is going. Am I supposed to go to Ruidian now? And they just, girl, don't be so silly.
No.
One of them's a little kinder and says, we didn't see anything like that in the dream. But Amis says, okay, we're to the point, though, that, yeah, let's talk more about Teleron Riyadh. I offered to teach you. There are some conditions that you're going to need to understand if I'm truly going to teach you. So let me lay these out, and you can tell me if you're good with that.
And if you
So
can't,
what
I won't
conditions?
teach you.
What conditions does she give? There's three
Well,
things she lays out.
First off, forget about being Aes Sedai. You just disregard everything you think you know and start from the beginning.
Yeah, and any of the pretentiousness you might have as an Aes Sedai. Because this is going to be hard training.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be, well, I'm too important for that. No, you're going to have to be a pupil.
And to that
Now,
end,
of course,
the next condition really is that you have to.
well, before you say
Go
the next
for it.
condition, I just want to comment on the fact that
Yeah.
it shouldn't be too hard, really, for Aguain.
Yeah, forgetting Aes
To
Sedai
let
should
go
be
of being
pretty
Aes
easy
Sedai.
when you're not Aes Sedai.
She thinks that in her head right away when she hears that. Okay, I can do that one.
The next
All
one's
right,
a bit
let's-
harder for her because
Oh,
she's told she has to listen. She has to just remember and most importantly, do what she's told.
That's the one that's really hard. She can listen. She can remember. What do you mean hop high when you say jump? What? Yeah.
She doesn't like doing what she's told with anyone, which
No.
to some extent is admirable. But for the sake of this training,
Okay, number 3.
you cannot go back into Teleron Riyadh until we give you express permission.
Shouldn't be so hard, right?
It seems reasonable, except for the fact that, she just told her friends who are across the world that she's going to meet them in Teleron Riyadh.
Aguain agrees to the conditions because she would agree to give
Liar.
away her first child if she could get this training. She wants to be a dreamer. So, all right, with that agreement, they're good because she's Aes Sedai, and they know Aes Sedai can't lie. She's agreed, therefore we know we can trust her to do these things. Let's start now. Indeed. So as the training starts, it's just verbal training, and they say, okay, we're gonna spew out a bunch of knowledge now. Listen, remember, and you're gonna have to repeat it back to us perfectly. And if you can't repeat it back perfectly, you will be punished. This is how we do things with our pupils. Again, no coddling here. So you're gonna do this right, or you're gonna be washing a lot of dishes tonight. She's like, okay. And here comes the knowledge. Now Aguain wants knowledge, so she's actually in love with this moment. Here's some things we get. Almost anyone can touch Teleron Riyadh, but few can truly enter it. Instead, you kind of like bump up against it in your dreams. It just happens. It's very rare someone can truly decide to fully go into Teleron Riyadh in their dreams. In fact, only these 4 wise ones here can do it of all the wise ones out there.
I may have just missed that. I didn't feel like they said it was just these 4. Like these 4 were some of the few, but I didn't catch that it was only these 4.
Yep. Let me pull that out. Now, you didn't say I'm wrong this time. You just didn't catch it.
Yeah, I don't distinctly remember it being different. I just feel like there's more than 4.
So here's what it says. Of all the wise ones, we 4 alone can dreamwalk.
Interesting. Okay. I missed it.
Yeah. So it's very rare. They also, in that same sentence, say, and the White Tower has not put forward a dreamwalker in 500 years. So again, there's been no one there who can do this at all. So this is a very rare talent.
Yep.
What happens in the world of dreams is real. So these people who just brush up against it in their dreams, sometimes things happen to them in those moments. But because they're not fully there, they're not fully experiencing the impact. So maybe they break their leg in their dream, but they were just bumping up against Teleron Riyadh, so they wake up with a sore leg.
That explains all the aches and pains that we wake up with sometimes.
Yeah, I'm these days I am bumping up against the world of dreams all the time. Every night.
What'd you do to your arm? What'd you do to your back? I don't know. Must have been bumping into the world of dreams. It
explains a lot. Your mother, she's got a sore neck again today. World of dreams. There it is. Bam.
Darn Teleron Riyadh.
But for a dream walker, where you're intentionally, through your ability, going fully into the world of dreams, any injury you suffer is going to be fully real in the real world too. Including, if you die in there, you never wake up. You're dead. Boom. So this is very serious. This is why you don't play around with Teleron Riyadh.
We do go a step further to find out that even those that are fully there in the dream aren't there as much as they could theoretically be. Because apparently, it's not something really done anymore. They're not even necessarily sure how it would be done. There once was a time when people could enter into the world of dreams in the flesh.
Yes,
they could be
their
more
physical body entering this place. But that's evil.
Yeah, evil. Don't do that.
Never do that. Don't even try to figure out how to do that. It must never be done. And that's where it ends. This little instruction. And then the chapter's over.
Now, and I'm glad we didn't have another chapter because we're already at way over.
It ends kind of with an ellipse, I want to point out. So there's more training going on is what they give. It's just, it continues on into the night with training. But that's where we stop. And yeah, seriously, this was a normal size episode right here. 1 chapter. And we didn't talk about every last thing. I mean, no. This isn't a word-for-word summary. This is an overview of a chapter. We probably go a little deeper into these than some people would.
But because I have an issue with that. Others probably also do.
Well, you and I both have an issue with this, though, in that we have trouble leaving anything out. We could intentionally just jump over stuff. I do in the notes sometime, and you'll be like, wait, but there's this thing
sometimes there was something that I specifically latched onto liking, and sometimes there's other things that you specifically latched onto, and that's part of the fun of this podcast, but it also means it sometimes takes some time.
But I swear, every time I intentionally skip over something that we could have talked about, but I'm like, but it's not that critical, you will stop us to highlight that.
Well, it's just because usually when you skip something because you think it's not that critical, it's because it's not that plot critical. But a lot of the things that are not that plot critical, I think are so more interesting than the plot things.
We love the books. That's the problem. We do want to talk about all of it. So, yeah, that's what happens. Okay, so that is the end of our regular content here today.
Yes.
Next time, 3 chapters. Wow, it's going to be rough. It's going to be fun. But again, we might have to try to skip over little pieces or
We'll see.
summarize differently. I'll work on it. I'll prep. That's going to be a couple weeks before we record that. Because again, reminder, everybody, we're not on the same recording schedule as we used to. There's still content coming out regularly, but
Absolutely.
Wheel of Time content isn't as often. That's why you've been seeing episodes now on the Dresden Files and other types of things that we'll be throwing in here. So you have to wait a little bit, but the next SWAT episode, it'll be worth waiting for. It'll be good. So at this point, we're going to soon now jump into our spoiler room. Quick moment for each of us to fully spoil one of the amazing many things that were in this episode. But if you're a first-time reader, you're out now. That's it. We'll talk to you next time. Okay, let's trust those people are gone, and let's roll
Bye.
to see. No, they're gone already, dude. Bye is too
Oh.
late now. Okay, I'm using the massive one you gave me, so I got to roll it on the floor.
I'll also use a big one, but it's not metal, so I
Woohoo!
don't have to. Nat 20?
Nope, but pretty close. What do you got?
A 9.
Got a 17. One of
You're
my
going
stronger
first?
rolls. Yeah, stronger roll in a while. All right, so what I am going to talk about is going into Teleron Riyadh in the flesh.
Okay.
Yeah, because, okay, they mention it. It's evil. Don't do that. And we've already seen someone do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty common consensus. Rand did that at the end of The Dragon Reborn as he chased Baalzaman, Shamael, into Teleron Riyadh, because that dude was already doing it. And we've seen multiple Forsaken spied on by Perrin in Teleron Riyadh in the flesh. Okay, so you can do it. There's a way, and it's going to continue to play out that there will be certain characters that go into the world of dreams in the flesh, just like they are traveling anywhere else. They travel into the world of dreams. And dangerous place, but it's going to play a huge role in this thing. This is why we had to take time to slow down and talk for this chapter, because wow, already these initial things we've learned about Teleron Riyadh are going to be big. I mean, Perrin, when finally in the last book he goes into it in the flesh, and whoa,
I could be misremembering this, but I think beyond the Forsaken, there are 4 characters that ever go into Teleron Riyadh in the flesh.
Rand.
Correct.
Perrin.
Yes.
Gaul with
yes. I was going to save him for last.
And Lord Luke / Esam.
Slayer.
Yes. Yeah. I believe that's it. Aguain sees Perrin when he's there in the flesh, but she's only there in the dream, and is like, what are you doing? You can't be here like that. He's like, it's just a thing. It's just
is.
Yeah. It's a great moment. That's way later in this. So full spoiler, people. We can only talk about this stuff at these moments. Okay, that's mine. Just gonna be fun.
I would have kept Gaul last there, I think, is really fun, because sure, it's probably not something super talked about, but the Aiel are like the only ones who do kind of know anything about dreamwalking really at this point. And they're going, it's so evil, it's such a thing. Gaul's really there for Perrin, because basically almost no questions, ride or die. He's going for it, doing this thing.
And not only he gets abandoned there by Perrin, not by choice,
and holds his own.
Yes, that's pretty awesome. Say, Jordo has dropped into the Discord that Rand may also unknowingly been in Teleron Riyadh in the Eye of the World.
It is also a theory. There are a number of these times, especially early on, that we are pretty sure he might be in Teleron Riyadh, kind of. It's unclear. I think the first time that it's solidly like, yes, is actually not until Fires of Heaven. because we see him
find out. We're
actively
not sure
chase
that book yet.
Ravine into it.
Yeah, that's a pretty intense scene. All right, what do you want to spoil, my son?
Yes. Well, see, that was my initial one that I wanted to go to. So instead, we're just going to touch briefly on all that crap that Avienda got taken away from her, because I think it's really fun that they do explain here that all of those things are going to be melted down and made into useful things that aren't weapons, all that. She's going to have to give them away. And she does. But right here is already a part of the mess that is going to happen between Rand and Avienda, and the giving of gifts and unintentional courtship, and it all comes back to our honor and obligation, our Jito, and the fact that maidens are really on about it. Like, they really care.
Okay, let me probe on something with you on this. She's gone to the ring. She's going to see her future. Is she partly so ticked at Rand because she sees in her future she gets with Rand?
I think in the same way that we saw, if we view it as the accepted test, they are going to see something similar. I think that's a fair assumption to make. And Aguain saw possible futures, one of which included a happy life with Rand and a kid. And I think it's not crazy to potentially have seen one of these options did include her having some sort of relationship with Rand.
Mm-hmm.
Not entirely sure what it would be or how, but it adds into why she would be so upset.
And we got the sense that you see different possibilities. It's hard, they kind of merge together to see your future, but that you don't necessarily hang on to all that knowledge perfectly afterwards.
But you probably hang on to some of the emotional connections.
I think so. So yeah, that could heighten what we get out of Avienda later.
So the force of which she goes, "You are for Elaine," I think is largely some of that emotional bleed through.
I like it. Totally. All right, we good? Those are our spoils?
I'm good. Yeah.
Nice. All right, I'm going to play the outro. Oh, you know what I forgot to do?
Play the spoiler room? I almost said it.
Totally
really
considered
the spoiler room.
Well, now you said it, did it twice at least. So
I figured, got to make up for it.
Double or nothing, apparently. Or both.
But let me hit our outro now, and we can just again thank everyone for being with us. All the things that are showing up here, you find in the links for the show as well. So if you're listening on the podcast, look in the show notes. All the ways you can connect with us, Discord, social media, find us on Twitter, all that stuff. Even send us an email if you want. And if they really like us, Zach, how can they support us?
Well, a couple of different ways. Notably, become a patron. Join us live on Discord and some of these other benefits, including content that's just for you. Or check out our merch shop.
There you go. Talk to you next time.